Hey, what's up? What's up? It's your girl Neek, and you're tuned in to Neek at Night. And tonight, this live is simply for the true night owls because we are live in effect at 1:25 a.m. Now, Jada Pinkett has been making waves about this book Worthy. A lot of people have been mad that she has been speaking. They're like, I want her to shut up, all while she has been on her tour to sell this book. Now, I tried to go live previous and it was messing up. Hopefully, this stream is a little bit better. I'm trying to do it through StreamYard, so maybe it'll not skip as much. Hopefully, we're in the clear. So, she has been making a lot of headlines with this book. And since it released, I said, listen, we're going to have the first look at it with the Night Owls and let everybody know what the goings on is that's going on with this book. Okay. Somebody in the chat said, is we live? Yes, girl, we is live. Okay, Jen, we is live. And so if y'all want to support the live, you guys can always support my videos by hitting the like button. That is a way to support and help for free. Okay. Another way that you can support my channel and support the live is by sharing the video. Okay. It seems like lately when I go live or when I do a premiere, I'm kind of like shadow banned. Like it's not sending out my lives to the night owls. And so I need y'all help in getting the word out. Okay. Because this is crazy. Okay. Even for it to be late at night, the numbers right now are kind of crazy. So I need y'all to help me out by hitting the like button, hitting the share button. And even if you don't got nobody to share it to, you can share it to yourself by sending it to your own email. And that helps me out a lot. Now, the third way that you guys can support is by Cash App, Super Chats, and all of that. Now, I bought this book so that y'all didn't have to, and we could all kiki and get a sip of what is going on together. Now, there is a lot of interesting chapters in this book, and we're not going to start from start to finish. We're going to try to find the juicy parts, read some stuff, and go on about our day. Okay, because baby, we just trying to get like a first look glance and see what's going on. Now, in the previous live that I did, I shared with you guys the chapters, but since we redoing the live all over again, we are going to somebody said I'm still buying Jada's book. Yeah, I'm not saying don't buy it. Now, still buy it. But for the people that you know how it go. The people that don't want to, I got you. Okay, so here's her book right here on the screen. Now, this is what it looks like when you download it on your device. Now, I'm looking at it through Kindle because the physical copy I have to wait to get it in the morning when Barnes & Noble opens up. But right now, I'm chilling at home in my pajamas. My pajamas that's available on my website, by the way, www.neekatnight.com. I'm chilling, chilling at home with my pajamas, sipping on a little something, and about to read this book. Now, I don't read fast, so I'm just going to give y'all this disclaimer, okay? If you're watching this at home and you want the reading to be sped up, on YouTube, they have this thing called playback speed to where you can switch up the speed, okay, and you can make it go a little faster. Okay, that's just the last disclaimer before we get on in. So let's get on into this gig. Okay. Somebody says, I'm in the UK and so glad I caught a live. I'm so glad that you caught a live too. Okay. Y'all are messing the comments. Y'all finna be on time out, baby. So, anyways, let's get into it. So, right here is the cover of the book, and that is her picture with the title Worthy. Okay. All right. So when you open to the next page, there are these photos, and these are the photos that you see inside. So the picture that sticks out is Will Smith's son and her. Like that's the main one that just grabs your eye. And then she has pictures with Willow. She has pictures with her family. You see Will Smith. You see different pictures with her dog and more pictures of her and Willow and things like that. And then you have more pictures of her and her family here. So then when you go to, hold on. The next slide, it's more pictures again. And again, it seems like the picture that sticks out is the picture of Will Smith's son with the other woman. All right, so now we get into the book. It says Jada Pinkett Worthy. Okay, and then after this, we get into her dedication. So it says, to my daughter and your daughters too, to my sons and your sons as well. And then we get into the table of content. Okay, the table of contents got some interesting titles. Now, I was reading through these titles and I'm like, child, this is interesting, but you know, we gonna get to these titles on another day, but we're gonna try to get to the juicier ones today. So it starts off and it says The Heroine's Journey. Part 1 says Childhood, the Orphan. Chapter 1, My Grandmother's Garden. Chapter 2, The Blessed Child of Two Addicts. Chapter 3, Leaving the Garden. Chapter 4, University of Bmore Streets. Chapter 5, Advanced Degree. Chapter 6, A Gate to Many Roads. Part 2 is Hollywood. Chapter 7, Promise of a Perfect World. Chapter 8, Living the Dream. Chapter 9, Breakdown. Trying to Find My Footing. Chapter 11, The Savior Prince. Okay, The Savior Prince. Being that Will Smith is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I'm going to assume that The Savior Prince is a chapter about Will coming to her rescue. That's what I'm assuming, but we'll find out. We will find out. Chapter 12, Lost Unmourned. Chapter 13, The Reluctant Bride. Part 3, Ride or Die. Chapter 14, Little Gurus. Chapter 15, Swallowing the Key. Chapter 16, Wild Banshee. Chapter 17, No Soccer Mom Here. Part 4, To the Exiled Lands. Okay, Chapter 18, Feeling the Rain. Chapter 19, A Place at the Table. Chapter 20, Surrender. Chapter 21, The Holy Joke, The Holy Slap, and The Holy Lessons. So I'm going to assume that chapter 21 is about Chris Rock and the slap, because it say the holy joke, the holy slap, and the holy lessons. So then we get to chapter 22. It says, Putting the Crown on the Queen of My Heart. Then there's author notes, acknowledgments about the author, copyright, about the publisher, XYZ, like that and like that. So now with that being said, those are the table of contents. I'm going to now get into the book. Now, again, we're not reading this book in order. Now, I could pull the book up on the screen like that, but I feel like it's easier if I hold my little cheapy little tablet and read it this way to you guys and get on into it like that. Now, I was skimming through, and when I was looking at some of the pages, I think Tupac comes in around when she's talking about the University of the Bmore Streets. That's when she's getting into like the Tupac teas. So we can start there if y'all would like, or we can go into her talking about Hollywood. Do y'all want to get into Tupac, or y'all want to get into Tupac first? Okay, so we're going to go to University of Bmore Streets, and we're going to start at chapter 4. All right, we're just going to start right here. So we are on page 76. And I'm gonna just start here because she talking about her selling drugs and all of that. Okay, so we just gonna start at the drug dealing and we gonna go from there. Okay, so she talking about the drug dealing. She talk about the drug dealing right here. So we gonna start at the drug dealing and then we gonna go from there. It says these influencers taught me that being fly wasn't just being pretty. Be of movement, a living, breathing testament. Not only was your art your life, but your life itself was the greatest masterpiece of all. How you walked through the world was as important as what you were creating. Trust and believe me when I tell you, I learned how to walk in the world and create an entrance. The clubs, skating rings, and parties were only for fun and good times. They were also where I would meet some of the more learned professors of the University of the Be More streets. Baltimore was infested with every kind of drug, but heroin reigned. Starting in the 1970s, drugs had sent an avalanche of money into predominantly black neighborhoods of every major city. It was also a time when legit jobs that used to support families, connecting communities, were vanishing. Major industries shutting down, leaving less opportunity for the working class, young people, and so on. Many would turn to drugs, business to make ends meet, or for a quick come up, or even to support their own habit. There was so much product flooding urban neighborhoods that nearly everyone in them was connected, selling, buying, or using. In the mid 1980s, a cheaper form of coke known as crack, which was easy and cheap to make and said to be far more addictive than cocaine itself, began to take hold in Baltimore. The idea that I can gain some financial freedom by selling drugs just seemed practical to me. To make a way for myself in a landscape where so many awful things were happening with the distorted reality that I had. Selling drugs was the norm and didn't seem as extreme as the horrors taking place every day. Like the time one of my homeboys was shot multiple times and left dead in the middle of the street from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. the next morning. I'll never forget the sound of his mother and sister wailing in the streets all night as they stood by his body. There was a certain kind of quiet that hits a place in the aftermath of murder when the morgue is not willing to come to that part of town to retrieve the body of a young man stolen by violent bullets. Even the hood has its own way of mourning and paying its respect when its own is left to rot on the concrete under the midnight sky. This was real life, brutal and unfair. The best you could do was to win by any means necessary. Is that selfish? Yes. But that was survival. When you live in an environment where you are seen as unworthy and you feel unworthy, you are going to treat others that way too. These kind of dog eat dog conditions can turn anyone selfish, which could make selling drugs simply a part of the game of life. This was my way to financial stability and mobility. I wasn't going to become a hustler's girlfriend. I had seen with my own eyes the level of control and enslavement that came from being financially dependent on a man. Some of the girls in my circle looked to their drug dealer boyfriends to give them places to stay, cars, jewelry, and clothes so they could have a better life, but at the cost of enduring cycles of betrayal and abuse that were unthinkable to me. F that. If anyone was going to give me the trappings of the good life, it was going to be me. I came to the conclusion that I can be as successful a drug dealer as any man. In my view, I could work my way to running a whole operation, be a queen pin. The fact is, I didn't want my hands tied by no dude, and I surely didn't want my hands tied because of the system. A generation earlier, the strivers became doctors and lawyers, like my grandfathers and Tony. Now, the most successful people in my hood were drug dealers. They had the life we all wanted. If you were strong enough, if you could survive, it could be yours too. Those attitudes collided with my growing concerns about being left to fend for myself. Should something happen to my mother, my Aunt Karen was worried enough about this. At one point, she asked my mother for guardianship. Should Adrian overdose or worse? Okay. So, I'm just checking the chat to make sure that you guys can hear me well. All right, looks like everybody's following along, so let's read some more. It says, those attitudes collided with my growing concerns about being left to fend for myself. Should something happen to my mother, my aunt. Okay, wait, I already read that. In these years, mom did try at times to get clean. She would go to rehab and get sober, but staying clean was another story. Before long, she was back using. My need for vigilance at home kicked into high gear as my mother became more and more unreliable. My Aunt Karen had also been an addict, but had kicked the habit and stayed clean. A key to a key to her sobriety was attending NA meetings. In fact, it was those same meeting rooms where Robosol found the support he needed to stay clean after he came back to Baltimore from California in the mid 1980s. When I worried when I worried that my mother would never reach her bottom and stop using for good, I found faith in the 12-step rooms and the testimonies of people who had come through hell on earth by the grace of God. Their stories were seemingly redemptive. Some had lost their families, their jobs, and their homes, even sold their children for drugs. Yet in those rooms, I saw the miraculous power of God to help the most powerless find redemption, love, and forgiveness and begin their lives anew. These testimonies gave me hope that Adrian and I would be okay. After feeling hopeful, then being let down again, you just get numb and you stop allowing yourself to feel anything other than apathetic. One day when I was at my part-time gig at merry-go-round, my mom came in so high I couldn't believe she had managed to drive the store without an accident. She wanted to put a leather trench coat on layaway so she could give it to me for my birthday. I had never felt embarrassed in public by her, but when she started talking to the dude who ran the store, whom she knew and whom had come over to say hi. Hold on. Oh, boy. I thought that was something. All right. So she says, okay, so she had never felt embarrassed in public by her when she started talking to the dude. She says, who ran the store, whom she knew and had come over to say hi and nodded off, standing upright. I felt that shame. Ma, I shook her arm. She opened her eyes and took a deep breath, reached into her purse for the cash to put down for the coat on layaway, and made an excuse that she was tired after a long night at the hospital. Nobody said anything to me after she left. I made no effort to explain what we had just witnessed. We all knew what it was, and there wasn't one person in that store who hadn't been touched by the epidemic of addiction. Although I knew I wasn't alone, it didn't make the moment any less painful. Seeing her condition in the isolation of our home gave a false sense of normalcy, but in public, I could not ignore the severity of my mother's addiction. It was clear that something was really wrong with her, with me, with us. Okay. She says, my resentment didn't surface until an incident with one of my mom's boyfriends. Adrian had always been careful about bringing the men in her life home, especially after her divorce. That changed when she started seeing Anthony, the definitive, tall, dark, and handsome type, who also happened to be a full blown heroin addict. He was at our house often, and eventually things started going missing. Between Adrian and me, in terms of jewelry, clothes, and cash, we were decent. We were a decent lick for someone who knew where to look. Otherwise, the narrow 3-story row house was no invitation to a thief. It had doors that closed only when wedged with newspapers, a kitchen with dirty stained yellow linoleum floor, which never improved no matter how much you scrubbed it, rusted metal cabinets we never wanted to store food in, wood floors in need of replacement, and barely any furniture. It wasn't so much a home as a place to lay our head. The door to bedroom didn't even have a the door to my bedroom didn't even have a doorknob, let alone any way to lock it. At one point, a shopping bag full of new clothes and some money of mine disappeared, and my mother mentioned that she couldn't find a necklace of my grandmother's that she shared with my Aunt Karen. Our next door neighbors informed my mother that they had seen Anthony climb through my bedroom window to enter the house and leave with some items. My mother confronted Anthony and he confessed to stealing from us in order to cop some drugs. My mother felt terrible. She made Anthony apologize to me, but what broke my heart was that my mother felt because he had apologized, it was okay to let him back into the house. Feeling angry, unprotected, and disregarded, I was shocked. My space had been violated. If I couldn't be safe in my home, then I wasn't safe anywhere. And that was the second that I decided I needed even more control over my life. Whatever money he took and clothes he stole, I could get back, no problem. I thought, I'm not going to trip. It was this incident that not only justified why I sold drugs, but ramped it up. Why? Because I wanted out. I didn't want to be a part of this, but I couldn't abandon my mother. That's a hell of a conflict. Okay. So that's her talking about selling drugs and things like that. But let me try and find Tupac. Hold on one second. Let me try to find Tupac. Okay, I think this is maybe about Tupac. Yep, this is about Tupac. All right, we back. We up to Tupac. All right. So we up to Tupac now. All right. So she says, being fashionably late to sophomore year orientation for the theater department, my intention, another way to make an entrance, we were required to report to the massive performing hall at Baltimore School for the Arts and imposing room. It was memorable for its super high ceilings and a stage built from beautiful dark wood. As I saunter in with my new extended rat tail down to my butt crack, I immediately catch eyes with a new dude across the room. Okay. I engage in a very energetic conversation with one of our classmates. He's wearing a thick old school alpaca sweater and jeans. He has beautiful brown skin with big brown eyes, heavy eyebrows, and a tiny peanut head. Oh shoot. Okay, we about to get into Tupac. Hold on one second, y'all. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Hold on. We about to get into Tupac, but child, listen. I'm gonna need y'all to support. Okay, so while I'm reading this, I do not see no support. Y'all have not liked the video. Y'all have not sent in no super chats, no cash apps. Y'all ain't sent in no type of love at all. Okay. And we reading this book and we chilling. Like, do y'all really love the kid or not? Like, I'm about to start acting like King Payne when he be on his live. Like, for more, we need support, 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 support. Like, there's no support, child, on this live. Okay. Somebody said I finished reading. Girl, I'm up early because the book just dropped. And we finna talk about it. We finna talk about it. All right. All right. Somebody says, I don't believe Jada Neek. I don't believe the drugs or Tupac. Tupac was with Keisha Quincy Jones' daughter. Y'all say that these men be with other women, like y'all don't see dudes messing with multiple girls or trying to holler at multiple girls at the same time. Like the white girl who tried to break down the whole Jada, he was with this other girl, blah blah. When we watched the Tupac movie, we seen that he was a player. We seen that he was cheating on the women that he was with, and we seen his lifestyle. Like, is it really far-fetched that he would try to holler at two different women? Come on now. I don't think that's really far-fetched, but you know, everybody is entitled to believe what they believe, child. But I know men right now who are in jail proposing to multiple women at the same time. It's several men who they try to see who can I get? Who can I get? And the relationship with the girl that he married did not even last anything. Like it didn't last at all. So it's like, child, he was looking legend has it. He was just looking for somebody he could never mind. But anyway, so let's get into this. So she is talking about Tupac. Okay, so she says, as she enters in with her rat tail down to her butt crack. She says, I immediately catch eyes with the new dude across the room who is engaged in a very energetic conversation with one of our classmates. He's wearing a thick old school alpaca sweater and jeans. He has beautiful brown skin with big brown eyes, heavy eyebrows, and a tiny peanut head. The minute I turn and notice him, he's already staring at me. Me catching his eyes gives him the gumption to walk across the room and come right to me. Boldly he smiles, a big old smile, showing off his big old teeth, and puts out his hand to shake mine. Hi, he says, I'm Tupac. I'm struck by the power of the unusual name. Tupac? His smile will become an unforgettable feature, a million watts of white teeth, and his hands feel strikingly clammy, becoming an ongoing joke between us for the duration of our friendship. The power of his presence lets me know right away that he is something special. I'm Jada. I smile back. Nice to meet you, Tupac. Hi, Jada, he says. From the gate, Pac was an undeniable, charismatic, who could captivate any room, peanut head or not. He hadn't yet told me his story or that he was already making moves as a 15-year-old rapper to be the next Rakim or that he has serious acting chops. But I would soon find out all of that and so much more. What I didn't expect, even with the uniqueness of his vibe, was that this young man and I would create a bond that would impact my life forever. Okay. So we're going to read some more, but let me go over these cash apps that was sent to me. Thank you guys so much for the cash apps. Hold on. I don't even have my cash app thing on the screen because, baby, I waited. I counted down till midnight to be able to have this book for the night owls so that we could read it together. Okay, so that we can have this together. All right. Thank you, Deidre, for the super chat. Thank you. I mean, for the cash app. Thank you, Brooklyn, also for the cash app. Thank you, Tammy, also for the cash app. I appreciate you guys so much. Hold on, let me pull my cash app thing on the screen if I have it here. And then I'm going to finish reading. Hold on, I don't want to lose my place. What says here? Okay. There you go, right there. It's Neek at Night 12 if anybody wants to be generous. And you can also send in a super chat, but you can also support for free by hitting the like button and hitting share. Okay, so let's roll it. So it says, all right, so it says chaos in the midst of chaos isn't funny, but chaos in the midst of order is. And that is a quote from Steve Martin. All right, so back to the book. It says, many of us who were raised in environments of chaos as children become addicted to chaos. These cycles will seem so normal that we won't recognize how we attract it and make consistent choices that keep us in the disorder. For many of us, the trappings of chaos seem so familiar. So right that we ain't even recognize the warnings when they make a blaring appearance. Such cycles can mislead us into believing that the adrenaline, the roller coaster ride of emotions, the merry-go-round of pain is living. The truth is, we can't tell up from down. And when we're on this kind of high, it says, and when we're not, we're miserable. If we're lucky, we hit rock bottom, worn out from the chaotic drama, confusion, and danger we are living into our lives. We have a choice, but we might be patient. We have cultivated this way of life for a very long time, and for the most, we can't change overnight. Sometimes to create that change, it takes surveying the past and identifying the origins of our chaos in order to recognize it in our present circumstances and be willing to take personal responsibility for bringing the past forward. Is there any aspect of your life at the moment that reflects an addiction to chaos? Does part of your life feel unmanageable and out of control? Do you seek the thrill of the roller coaster? It can be so helpful to look at what keeps you hooked on chaos, perhaps a way to make yourself feel strong and valued for your ability um, to withstand. When you're willing to name that cause, it loses its power and gives you back yours. All right. So back to Tupac. Oh shit. Whew. Child. It's back to Tupac. It's back to Tupac. I'm gonna put this one on the screen real quick. Hold on, let me put this on the screen. Hold on, let me go here. Cause why did it start off like that? Why? Why did it start off like that? Child, take me to chapter 5. What is going on? All right. I'm gonna put this on the screen, but then I'm not gonna keep the whole book on the screen, but I'm gonna put this on the screen because why did chapter 5? Oh, child. I'm a mess, child. It's just because I've been sipping. Oh, child. It's just because I've been sipping a little bit. But hold on, let me put it on the screen first. Because why did she start it off? Why did she start chapter 5 off like that? Hold on. Oops, that's the wrong thing. Okay, here we go. All right. Why did she start it off with, "All right, Pac, kiss me then"? Like, wait, what? We just like, how did it get to, "All right, Pac, kiss me then"? Like, what? How did it jump to that? That is so crazy to me. Hold on, I'm finna finish reading it to y'all, but hold on. That was just a little funny. That was just a little funny to me because I just was not expecting that. I just was not expecting that because the previous page was this. So this was the previous page right here where she did the quote from she did the quote from Steve Martin, and then she talked about all of this stuff right here where she was saying all these questions and all this, whatever. What this is what I just read, y'all. We have a choice, but we must be patient, cultivated a way of life, all this stuff. And then she said, your life can feel unmanageable, out of control. Do you seek the thrill of the roller coaster? It can be so helpful to look at what keeps you hooked on the chaos, perhaps as a way to make yourself feel. Wait. Oh, to feel strong and valued for your ability to withstand. When you're willing to name that cause, it loses its power, gives you back yours. So this page, then it goes to, "All right, Pac, kiss me then." So I'm like, girl, how did we get there? How we just gonna start off with, "All right, Pac, kiss me then"? That is so crazy to me. But all right, so let's get to it. Let's get to it. Somebody says this book sounds like Jada is just talking and going back and forth. Um, Rock Rockwell says, "I won't be watching her Lifetime movie. She'll probably say, 'Oh, I forgot to put that in the book,' when she added another lie about Tupac." Another person says Jada, or Ashley's review says Jada is all over the place. Child. Okay. So let me take this off. All right, so it's easier for me to read it here because when I'm looking at my computer screen, I'm looking into cameras and it's hard for me to, it's like it be messing with me, child. So let's read it. Let's finish reading it, child. Let's finish. It says, "All right, Pac, kiss me then." Pac and I are standing on my tiny back porch on Price Ave, and the two of us are bantering about how maybe if we actually tried to be more than friends, could it work or not? And I decided to dare him. During our teen years, it wasn't really Pac's good looks that grabbed you because his sculpted features and unforgettable handsomeness hadn't quite come in yet. She said he was still in his ugly stage. So it wasn't that. She said Tupac was in his peculiar stage at that point. Okay. So oh my god. Oh my god. I'm not about to play with y'all. I low key want to take these eyelashes off because they are making my eyes water. And I can't play with y'all. Thank you, 3 Russell, for the $10 super sticker. I appreciate you so much. Child, we gotta get into this. I think I'm gonna take my eyelashes off, you guys. They're bothering me. Okay, y'all don't care. Whew, that feels so much better. They're bothering me so much. Anyways, we cute with or without them, but they just enhance a little bit, but it is what it is. Let's get to it. So she says, she says, during our teen years, it wasn't really Pac's good looks that grabbed you because his sculpted features and unforgettable handsomeness hadn't quite come in yet. What he did have, even in the 10th grade, was pure, unadulterated charisma that was out of this world. Hold on. Oh my God, I need to stop. Okay, I'm not gonna drink no more, child, because I cannot. I cannot. Okay. Neek, get it together. Okay, I'm gonna try to get it together. Whew, okay. She said, whew, child. Whew, okay. Neek. All right. So she said, what he did have in the 10th grade was pure, unadulterated charisma that was out of this world. What he saw in me at first might have been just that I was the cute, feisty girl in the room. For any curious male spirit, that's the first move, to want to know her name and see what's up. Basic. And yet, all I can tell you is that our immediate connection, I felt, rose behind the basics. And this is what made me want to get to know him. We became inseparable from the moment we met. We were kindred spirits in so many ways. And although Pac may have been an attraction to me in the beginning, the more time we spent together, the more we could both see that there was no romantic chemistry between us at all. There were no airs between us. Either we could be raw and authentic without the constraints of having to impress each other. You got what you got. There was no butterflies, no tingles in the body, no hot desire to be in each other's embrace. Rather, there was something far more important unfolding between us. A friendship of a powerful strength, giving us the ability to hold space for each other, though some of the most unbearable moments of our lives. Being as young as we were and as tight as we were, we both found it confusing at times that we weren't drawn to each other romantically. Hence the day he got on my last nerve about the possibility of being more than friends. And I dared him to kiss me. Without hesitation, Pac grabbed me in his arms and did just that. So she keeps saying that they wasn't attracted to each other romantically, but if he's asking you to be more than friends, just say that he was attracted to you and you wasn't attracted to his peanut head because he hadn't even grown into his looks yet. So anyway, she says, without hesitation, Pac grabbed me in his arms and he did just that. The kiss lasted a few seconds before we both pulled away in mutual disgust. It felt wrong. Pac pulled back with his eyes all squinted as if he had drunk spoiled milk. Whew. I'm not about to play with Jada. I am not about to play with her. Oh my God. Okay. He wiped his lips hard and said, "What the F?" I laughed my A off. "See, I told you, dummy." Oh, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. She said, "I laughed my A off. See, I told you, dummy." It was literally like a sister and brother trying to make out. All I knew, though, was that it was possible to really love a guy deeply without it having anything to do with a hanky panky type attraction. I had never felt that before. Pac made up for the lack of male protection and care I saw in my life. Unlike other guys who wanted to flash their jewels, cars, cash, their value, because Pac didn't have any of those things to display as his worth, he offered his mind, his care, and attention. Besides, I think God knew that if hanky panky attraction had been possible between us, we would have left each other in a special kind of ruin. Instead, God gifted us with a special kind of friendship. Now, our bond didn't come without its challenges and costs. We were both fiery, passionate, and dangerously stubborn. This made for feral fights. We didn't take each other's ish, and unfortunately, we also knew how to hurt each other like no other. Our tongues were the sharpest of swords between us. These fights could leave us to not speaking for days, sometimes weeks at a time. But we always made it back. Always. But nobody could tease me like Pac. He knew how to get under my skin. He created a nickname to remind me that I wasn't as up on my game as I acted. It was brutal. He called me square for life. When I first met Pac, he owned one sweater, the same one he worn the day I met him. Two pairs of pants and a few shirts, that's all. Pac couldn't hide the reality of poverty in his life. Looking for an easier way of life, in part, his mom had brought him and his little sis, Saki, Sakia, Saki, Sikaiwa. I don't know how to say her name. From New York to Baltimore, but it didn't sound like their lives had gotten much easier for them. As Pac and I grew closer, I got a clearer picture and learned that, like my mother, his mother, Afeni, struggled with addiction. Like mine, his environment was full of instability and chaos. We really bonded as the result of riding the same roller coaster with our moms, and both suffered the pains and disappointment that came with it. Unlike my mother, Afeni had not been able to secure work, which had only worsened their financial struggles. Pac never said so, but I could tell that getting to eat 3 meals a day was not a given for him, nor were shoes that fit or getting a good night's sleep. Between my regular jobs and cash I'd started to make it in the streets, I always had some money in my pockets to help Pac. I made it my business to ensure that he was straight, but not on some charity ish. Pac was prideful. He had standards about what it meant to be a man and stood his ground on that. In spite of how he may have been suffering, if he was made to feel like I thought he needed assistance, he would refuse support from me. And in those instances, my heart withered watching him do so. Early in our friendship, I bought some clothes to school that I bought him, some shirts and a jacket. But I had to be careful as I started to show my purchase to him. I went, "Yo, Pac, Gap was having a sale, right?" So I was getting some stuff for my people, and then I saw this fly jacket, and I couldn't help but see you in it. I was like, "This will be fly as F on Pac." I held the jacket up against his chest. Damn, I was right. I remember the biggest smile came over his face as he grabbed the corners of the jacket. "Yo, you're not such a square after all. This is dope." He threw on the khaki jacket with pride. I had succeeded. His sis had simply thought about him. That's all. And happened to run across some fly ish she wanted him to have. Anything different, he would have made an excuse not to take it. If I was going somewhere to eat, I'd take him with me on some let's kick it ish with the casual flow, whether it was TGIF to get a chicken box, cheesesteak subs, or McDonald's. We had late nights at Denny's and IHOP. Later on, when I was starting to really roll in the streets and was flush with cash, I even took Pac a few times when I went with my mom. When I went with my homegirl Fawn, Shet, and some other high rolling hustlers to full on upscale dinners at Pargo's, our spot after a good week. I'm talking about at least a couple of grand in my pocket. For the other players, it was a lot more. I didn't bring Pac around often because I didn't want to pull him into the dangers of the Baltimore dope scene. The game wasn't for you if you weren't from Baltimore and didn't have your people. I wasn't thorough like that to have him on my hip. Me, I could barely cover my own behind. On Greenmont Avenue, where Pac lived, the dudes selling dope already saw him as a threat. A young black charismatic male they didn't know and didn't like because he had an it factor they didn't. Young lions can always smell the blood of other young lions in their territory who might present a problem. Pac didn't pay their foolishness any mind. He was focused and becoming known for his brazen rap battles. At 15 and 16, he could freestyle and rhyme you relentlessly into submission. We were each other's biggest fans, going crazy, watching each other do what we love. I love watching him do rap battles as he got a kick of watching my dance battles. Then there came the inevitable moment when Pac tried to convince me, you should rap. You'd be dope, Jada. I don't know, Pac. Come on, stop being square. I'll write a rhyme for you. I couldn't refuse because Pac was so determined to have a female rap group. He put me and two other girls together and quickly arranged a rap battle for us. Pac wrote my rhyme and made me practice with him every day after school. I was horrible. Pac really tried saying again and again, listen to me, and then he'd rhyme the rhyme for me. Can you imagine Pac's cadence and style were as dynamic then as when the world got to hear him? And here he was trying to get me to rhyme like him. Please. He just thought my inability to do so was because I was being stubborn. Pac would be like, what is your great, great, great white grandma coming through now? Not him saying it's her great, great, great white grandma coming through. Where is your rhythm? Is you listening to the guitars or something? Get on beat, Square. I could never find my cadence, but I went through with the battle and we won. I got out alive without embarrassing Pac too much, but my rap career ended there. Pac and I were thick as thieves and we trusted each other completely, even confiding in each other about our love interests. Pac was seemingly falling in love with someone every week. Okay, so let me take a pause to look at. Let me see some of y'all comments. She says, is this a Pac book or Jada? Okay, it says, sounds like Biggie and Lil' Kim's story. It's so crazy because Jada do remind me of MC Lyte. Jada was definitely a jive turkey. All right. Good morning. Somebody says, nah, sounds like Stewie and Blueface. Child, y'all are a mess. Again, I'm bringing this to y'all because, baby, I felt like it would be a good read, but also continuing on, I need the support of the people. Like, y'all could send your girl some love, even if it's $1. Okay, I ain't asking for too much. Okay, $1, $2 holla. Okay, through my Cash App or a super chat or something, y'all can show love by hitting the like button. But we reading this. It's late. It's literally 2:23 a.m. And we are up with the first look at Jada's book. Like, is that not dedication to the night owls or what? Like, come on now. Show your girl some love. I don't be asking for donations like this too much, like that. But come on now. Come. Child. Where is the love? Where is the love? We all kicking it. We reading. We got the comments flowing. You know, we got all of that going. And no support, no likes, no shares. Come on now, y'all better quit playing with me, child. Thank you so much, Tawana. I appreciate you so much, girl. That's what I like to see. Like to see stuff like that because we all kicking it, having a key. This is the true. This is the true night owl hangout. Okay, child. And how y'all like this book reading? Would y'all like, for us to chill and read other interesting books? Because I ordered Will Smith book as well. Okay. I ordered Will Smith book as well. So thank you so much. A typical tink. I appreciate you, Goo. I appreciate you, boo. All right. So Um, I'll buy something from the website when I get paid on Friday. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And by the way, y'all can always support via my website as well, www.neekatnight.com. Okay. Yes, with the books. Yes, love it. Here for it. Yes. Okay. Somebody says Will's book was good. Okay. All right, child. We'll get into it. Oh, what I do? Okay, let's get back to where we were. Okay. Okay, so she says, Pac and I were thick as thieves. We trusted each other and completely, even confiding in each other about our love interests. Pac was seemingly falling in love with someone every week, although there was one girl in any given period of time that he was really crazy about. That was the one he couldn't get. He would have his eye on a few, but there was always that one ungettable girl who would take hold of his mind completely, at least for a time. And that was the one who became my assignment. He'd send me on missions to put in a good word for him or deliver letters and poems to that one elusive girl in class. On the flip side, when I had an aching crush on a senior, Pac agreed to help me out. John Cole was a visual artist at BSA who wasn't on campus often. Whenever I saw him, I had butterflies. I was so infatuated with him that instead of just introducing myself, I had asked two friends to make the introduction to in the lunchroom. Thank you so much, Carlier, for the super sticker. Okay, thank you so much. I think let's see here. Thank you, Tindo, for the cash app. I appreciate you as well. I love y'all so much. All right, so she says on the flip side, when I had an aching crush on a senior, Pac agreed to help me out. John Cole was a visual artist at BSA who wasn't on campus often. Whenever I saw him, I had butterflies. I was so infatuated with him that instead of just introducing myself, I had asked two friends to make the introduction in the lunchroom one day. The moment John looked at me, it was as if his eyes pierced into my soul. He was emotionally open yet mysterious. He kept to himself and his art most of the time, and I could feel in him what seemed to be a soft but tortured heart. He was not my usual preference as far as masculine beauty goes. I liked black dudes, street dudes to be correct. And John Cole was neither. The exact opposite. He was pale white with white blonde hair all over. Not yellow, blonde, but white blonde. To some, he could have seemed damn near transparent, but in my eyes, he was beautifully handsome. His face and body seemed sculpted like one of those classic Greek statues. He was different, and I was captivated. This was new territory. I wanted Pac to get to know John for me, explaining he's different, and I like that, but I want to make sure he's not on some weird out of pocket ish. As soon as introduced Pac to John, the two of them fell into a tight friendship that made it natural for John and me to become romantic. It was unexpected, unforced, and epic. We became the Three Musketeers. The only thing I tried to keep separate was my street life, not wanting to involve either of them in what was still on a limited scale at the time. I didn't want my worlds to collide. We each had a level of dysfunction and trauma in our lives, but because Pac's life was so marred by poverty, I think he felt the stresses more. Pac stayed with his mom and his sweet baby sister, Sakiwa, whom he adored, with his own spot at the back of the house in a makeshift extension. One day, I went to pick him up and he invited me inside. He took me to his room and I saw that he slept on a tattered mattress on the floor with a sheet thrown over it. The floor was covered by a super thick carpet that looked like it had never been vacuumed. Me, I could post up in many projects in Baltimore, but Pac House, not so much. Pac's living space made the projects feel like the Four Seasons. Child, not her roasting Tupac House. She said it was nasty up in there. She said that it was Jada. Did you really have to roast Tupac House like that? Child, what? She said Pac House was nasty. Thank you, Kathy, for the super chat. She says, I am sick of Jada, so this is the only way I will read her book. Thanks, Neek. Child, she out here she called it Tupac House nasty. She said the floor was covered by a super thick carpet that looked like it had never been vacuumed. Me, I could post up in many projects in Baltimore, but Pac's house, not so much. Pac's living space made the projects feel like the Four Seasons. Child, that whole paragraph. That whole paragraph, girl. We probably could have. But hey, we want people to be real, so hey, it is what it is. Child. Where everybody listening from, by the way? Let me know where you are listening from. I'm in California, so for me it's 2:30 a.m. I would like to know where you're listening from and what time it is where you're at. All right. California, we got Milwaukee, Atlanta, California, Charlotte, Baltimore, Florida-ish, ATL, Nebraska, Georgia, St. Louis, Belize. Okay. North Carolina, or what they say? North Kakalaki. Chicago, Ohio, Cali, Detroit, Alabama, Long Island, New York, Dayton, Ohio, Philly, Manchester, UK. Okay. We up in here. I see y'all. England. Okay. Charlotte, North Kakalaki, New Jersey, South Jamaica, Queens. Okay. I see y'all. Boston in the house. Okay. Okay, Rockwell, thank you for letting them know. She says, if you would like to donate to Neek and help support the channel, donations are appreciated. They're not required. Thank you, everyone who donated in advance. Thank you so much for being such a loyal night owl. I appreciate it so much. You be loyal to the soil, and it does not go unnoticed. Trust me. So let's get back to this. Where was I at, child? She was saying his house was filthy. Okay. Child, she said his house was nasty than a mother. She said his house was so damn nasty. That carpet was so damn filthy. She didn't want to touch it. Okay. She said, we got a lot of people from the UK. Shout out to y'all. Thank you for the $2 super sticker, Thailand. I appreciate it. All right, San Fernando Valley, but you live in Alabama. Okay. I see you. All right. Let's get back to this. All right. She says, he grabbed what he needed, gestured to the front of the house, and then took me to meet his mother. And there Afeni was, in the dark, as Pac led the way through a very still and heavy space. Over time, I would get to know Afeni and see that many of Tupac's traits were inherited from her. Afeni was brilliant, well learned, and when she had her mind set, there was no changing it. She had a smile that could light up a room, and when she started to speak about something, she was passionate about it. It was impossible for her to not get your attention. Pac was the same in every way. All of this shared magic would at times be the grounds for conflict between two very intelligent, strong-willed spirits already steeped in their own individual conflicts. Ma, this is my friend Jada from school, Pac said to Afeni, who sat quietly smoking as the embers of her cigarette lit up the darkness. Well, hello, Jada. Aren't you pretty? She said without celebration, as just matter of fact. I don't know how to explain it, but I was immediately drawn to her rawness and her lack of desire to be impressed or to impress. Thank you. Very nice to meet you. You too, sweetheart. Afeni then turned her attention somewhere else. And I turned to go, following Pac out the house. After my first visit, I never went back to that house. John, on the other hand, stayed with Pac a couple of times until the rats got a little too close for comfort to the mattress on the floor of Pac's room. Before long, there came a point between the young dealers in his hood targeting him and conflict with his mother when Pac admitted he needed somewhere else to stay. I knew what I had to do and had Pac come with me and wait in the living room as I went to my mother's bedroom to beg, Ma, just let him stay here tonight. One night. Just one night? Question mark. Yes, until we can figure something else out for him. My mother agreed to one night and not one night more. She thought it was very inappropriate for a male friend of mine to be staying with us. I didn't care about what was appropriate. Pac wasn't going to be on the street, period. I got him some sheets and a blanket, and he slept peacefully on our couch. The next day, Pac and I explained his situation to John, who instantly offered for Pac to come and stay with him. My anxiety drained from me in a flash. I knew with John, Pac was straight. And thus began a memorable period in which our lives, in which, and thus began a memorable period in each of our lives. John lived with his parents in Bolton Hill, a well-to-do area at the time, not far from school. Thank you so much for the super chats, Arky. I appreciate you so much. Let's see some of the comments. Somebody says, why does this book seem fictional? Wait, how many chapters of Pac in this lady book? We on chapter 5. We haven't got to another chapter yet. This is all one chapter. Somebody says, but it was inappropriate to smoke crack. She said the grandmother showed her how to master. Tupac. Ooh, child. I don't know if I can read that like that. All right. All right. So it says, okay, so where was I at? John lived with his parents in Bolton Hill, a well-to-do area at the time, not far from school. John's parents loved both Pac and me, which granted us an open door to their home. Pac stayed weeks on end in the spacious upper loft John occupied, and in time, John's home became Pac's official residence. I will forever be grateful to John's parents for allowing their home to be a safe space for us. The closer we became, the more John confided in me about his heartbreak, which had to do with the debilitating stroke his mom had that she suffered, and how it has stolen from him and the mother he once knew. Pac and I had lost our mothers to addiction. The three of us were all orphans in some manner. We had lost our mothers in different ways. We were codependent in the best way. We would try to fill in gaps of one another's losses as much as we could. What the three of us were going through became the glue of our everlasting friendship. I had found a new garden. There was something so liberating about being with a young man as deeply passionate as John. He brought that passion to everything from the music he was drawn to his desire to help others, to his art and how he loved. He was also passionate about sharing every aspect of life with Pac and me. He would sometimes go to Odell's with us on North Ave and lay in the cut while I dance battled. He'd explain later that he rarely got to see me dance because I was always surrounded by a sea of people while he stood posted as the only white dude amid a sea of hustlers. He didn't care. He was down to kick it with Pac and me, and no matter where we were, whenever I stepped off the staircase after climbing to John's loft sky, I felt free to be someone other than the Jada I knew. With its beautiful brick walls, high ceilings, and tall windows, his living space was a world full of deep feeling art, music, and open hearted conversations. I had my first mushroom experience with John. Ain't mushrooms considered psychedelics? She said, Jake, child. She said Jaden introduced her to psychedelics, but isn't mushrooms psychedelics? Or am I tripping? I don't do drugs, y'all, so I don't quite know. Child, not that being the last drop. Okay, so she said she did mushrooms with all right, so she says let's see where we at. She said, I had my first mushroom experience with John, which was a hell of a ride after I damn near poisoned myself by taking too many. He was a seasoned enthusiast. In fact, much of his artwork was inspired by his shroom journeys. Pac in these days didn't indulge in any heavy mind altering substances. He smoked weed now and then and drank alcohol once in a while, whereas I could be extreme. We all shared a love of every kind of music. John revolutionized our musical knowledge by introducing us to bands like New Order, The Mortal Coil, or This Mortal Coil, The Cure, and the Cocteau Twins, Blue Nile, and Dead Can Dance. We all became huge Kate Bush fans, especially running up that hill. In our world together, no subject was taboo. Pac's fiery and eloquent delivered political sermons to me and John with particular attention to the plight of the black community. It was in these impromptu forums that I learned that the Black Panther Party, his mother, Afeni, was an ex Panther, and the teachers who shaped its ideology. Pac taught me so much history I had never known. And he spoke about how that history continued to influence the systematic abuse of power and efforts to destroy Black communities. In these moments, I saw a preview of how Pac could change the molecules in the air, him in ways in the air around him in ways the world would eventually experience through his music, his movies, his interviews, and above all, his presence. Through Pac, I became enthralled with freedom fighters like Angela Davis, Huey P. Newton, Geronimo Pratt, Assata Shakur, and Elaine Brown. He urged me to read Angela Davis and autobiography Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver, Soledad Brother by George Jackson. Marion had given me a foundation in history of civil rights movement, but Pac embedded me in the history of Black power, which gave me insight into my Aunt Karen and my mother approached social inequalities the way they did. Now it all made sense. In my own studies, I noted that there were still gaps in the thinking of both movements that held Black women back because we ultimately expected to propel Black men forward. Pac and I had many intense and powerful debates about sexism with the civil rights movement and the Black power movement, and the ridiculousness of how Black men, in fighting for their freedom and autonomy, had a very difficult time believing their women deserved the same freedom and autonomy. This was always deeply disappointing to me, and Pac, and I would go at it I would go at it around this issue. Pac loved women, especially Black women, but he had his hangups. Child, now I, am I getting sleepy now or what? Okay, let's what's going on? Okay, where was I at? Child, because am I getting sleepy? What's going on? All right, she said, where was I at? Okay, she said they had many intense and powerful debates against sexism with the civil rights movement and the Black Panther movement. I mean, the Black Power movement, and the ridiculousness of how Black men, in fighting for their freedom and autonomy, had a very difficult time believing their women deserved the same freedom and autonomy. This was always deeply disappointing to me and Pac, and I would go at it around this issue. Pac loved women, especially Black women, but he had his hangups. I can go as hard as he could, but was more willing to give up my need to be right when he hit me with some potent truths. I can't say Pac gave up his need to be right so easily, but man, I knew how to sit him down. We both cherished our intellectual and passionate exchanges. John was sometimes our audience and oftentimes our student. One day, John and I were out shopping in a store when I realized, in my newfound radical awareness around racism, that a white female clerk had been eyeing me and covertly following me. "Are you following me?" I finally asked. "Excuse me?" I said, "Are you effing following me?" John immediately ran to my side, smoothed things out, and took me outside the store. "Hey, what's going on?" he gently asked. "You didn't see how she was treating me? She was following me like I was going to steal something. How come she didn't do that to you?" "Why do you think she was following you?" "Because I'm Black, John." John listened silently, but with the deepest empathy when I was done ranting. He said, "I get it. I'm sorry you experienced that, and I wish you didn't have to." He was so kind, but we both knew then that he would never have such experiences. No matter how hard he tried to understand, I knew this would create a chasm between us. That made me question if I could truly consider white men as romantic partners. It was bad enough that most Black men didn't understand the plight of Black women, but to contend with a white man who wouldn't have the ability to get in no matter how hard he tried? Which was worse? John could see beyond thing John could see beyond these things. He operated off of spirit, which dissolved barriers and filled chasms. Things just were. I loved how he had the ability at such a young age. I did not. For the first time being, however, I have found a measure of safety in the company of these two remarkable and gifted men, both who love me in different ways. All right. Does anybody know who John is, or is this a made up name? Is this his real name, or do y'all think John Cole is like a made up name? Somebody said brute. Child. Why am I getting so tongue twisted now? Proof Jada ain't know what she wanted, because didn't she say she liked thugs? Yeah, she did say she liked thugs, but she said it was something special about John that she liked it, you know? All right, so this page is all about John. Then towards the end, she talks about Tupac. Let's see. All right, so on the bottom, this says 51 minutes left in this chapter. I've been on live an hour and a half. It's saying this chapter is 51 minutes left. Child, I'm about to post some more of my little drink, child. Somebody said John B. Child, I got some champagne I'm drinking. I got some champagne I'm drinking. I wanted something light and polite. But I don't know if I'm gonna make it all the way through reading this chapter. But we gonna get through some of it. We gonna get through it. Y'all wanna hear about Tupac? We'll probably set up another live to get into, the Hollywood part. But okay, she up to 1987. Child. Ooh. Somebody said my eyes is closing. I know. I'm starting to get sleepy too. Somebody said skip around. All right. Where y'all want me to skip to? Y'all want me to keep reading or y'all want me to skip around? Because she starts back talking about Tupac. She talks about John for 3 paragraphs and then she talks about Tupac again. Then she talks about somebody named Fawn and Ramsey. Let's see. Talking about the drug game. Okay. Let's see. Somebody said get to August. I don't know which one is about August. The chapters, I don't know which one is about August. Um Some people telling me not to skip. They said go back to Pac. Okay. She start back talking about Tupac again right here. It was like one paragraph about Tupac left on the other page, and then she was talking about her friends Chet Ramsey and somebody else. So we'll fast forward here and we'll pick back up her shit talking about Tupac again. So it says, all right. She says, spring was in the air in 1988, and my mother had just announced that her boyfriend Rodney and future husband wanted to take us to the amusement park a couple of hours away. Adrian loved amusement parks, everything about them, and she was so cheerful when she said, Rodney wants to take us to King's Dominion. Do you want to go? I think it would be fun. I deliberated for a bit, but could feel her enthusiasm as she went on about what a great time the three of us could have together. I have to admit, I wasn't that interested in hanging with an adult crew for the day, but Rodney was cool, and more importantly, it would make my mother happy. I agreed on one condition. I'll go if I can take Pac. It was a road trip, and Pac and I both needed to get out of the city and have some fun. During this time, Pac was busy working a job. John had helped him get after school, and on the weekends, he was creating a vision for his future and was flourishing creatively. Although, as he came into the manhood, he was frustrated. He couldn't do more to help his mother, and his sister. He felt like he was failing as a man, and he was hard on himself because, in his mind, he had to live up to a standard in providing for the ones he loved. As often as I could, I tell him, "Your day will come, and Pac, be patient. There is only so much you can do right now." In time, I assured him he'd be able to do more to help his family. I said that to him because I believe this to be true in my own circumstance with my mother. My idea was if I save myself, it will make it possible for me to save her too. Pac had never been to King's Dominion, so he was happy to join us. Besides, Pac was always down for a good time. As soon as we entered the park, Rodney dug into his pocket us to load us up with cash. He obviously didn't know I had my own money, which was best because that would have made for a much different conversation. Okay. Um, it says Rodney suggested we reconvene later and um agreed upon the spot. And with that, Pac and I bounced. Of course, we got on rides and, ate a ton of junk like cotton candy, my favorite, hot dogs, and French fries. At some point, we wandered over to an installation where you could pick out a song by your favorite artist to make a music video of yourself lip singing to it against a green screen. Pac, we got to do our own music video. We got to do one, I said excitedly. He looked at the list of artists, all pop stars. Pop was hesitant. They don't have nobody black? I scoured the long list. Hold up, they have Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Where? Skeptical Pac looked again. I pointed. Here. Parents just don't understand. Whoo, child. So they at the music park and they looking for a black artist and they see Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff. Oh, child. Ooh, child. Okay. We getting into it. She said, Pac's Mouth. They the only rappers on here? Damn. I don't know all the lyrics to that song. Do you? I shrug, saying nope. But parents is cool. We know enough to fake it. My thing was any chance I had to perform, I took it. And that day, I also had the opportunity to have it on tape. Pac was feeling a little self conscious because he didn't know all the lyrics. It had already been established that I couldn't rap, so I had the easy job. All I needed to do was be his backup dancer. We went back and forth, but he finally came in. He finally gave in. And the rest is history. The universe loves to sprinkle prophetic teasers. Whoo, child. Okay. She said the universe loves to sprinkle prophetic teasers into our lives all the time. Not in a million years would I have dreamed that I had just made a video lip syncing the brand new hit song that would go on to win a Grammy as one of the first in a newly created Best Rap Song category. Not in a million years would I have dreamed that the Fresh Prince and I would become very well acquainted. And I never would have imagined that this video would become a tangible memory of the last time Pac and I were simply kids together. One morning, a very short time later, without warning, other than the knowledge that there were difficult struggles within Pac's family life, I arrived at school, went to my locker, and found a letter from him in which Pac broke the news that he had left for California. I would come to find out that he had gone to Donald Hicken days before to try to find a way to stay. Pac kept this whole dilemma from me. His exit was abrupt, very abrupt, and that made me worry. Although he assured me in the letter that he was okay and that he would be in touch with me soon, my deep concern for his well being overshadowed the fact that he was gone from Baltimore for good. When we finally spoke, he let me know he was okay. He was moving around from place to place, but he was safe. He got me up to speed on the why, but it was complicated. He did his best to ease my hurt feelings about his sudden departure and my desire to make Ish right for him. I hated the fact that I was absolutely powerless to make his life easier. Pac gave me addresses and numbers for whenever I needed to reach him in Marin City, out in the Bay Area of the West Coast, and kept talking about how he thought I would love Cali and how he wanted me to visit. I promised I would and meant it. Most of our conversations ended with familiar refrain of his, "Hey, don't get into no stupid ish. I don't want to have to jump back on a bus to Baltimore Square." He'd say he'd say it like the world was an easy place when we both knew it wasn't. Just to reassure me that no matter where he was still willing to hold me down. I wouldn't give myself the room to feel his absence. I had to keep moving. I just kept on stepping deeper and deeper into the ish that I believed was going to be my way out of it all. It's a warm Friday night in late spring 1988 that begins with Ramsey and me on North Ave at the corner liquor store. Ramsey is a senior at BSA and about to graduate. We're looking to kick it as much as possible before she goes off to college. So the plan is to get a bottle of peach schnapps and head down to the harbor and hang. Before I can buy peach schnapps, I have a check for $700 from a hair modeling job that I need to cash real quick. I'm in line when I notice this really tall dude in a white t-shirt and jeans standing behind me. The person in front of me leaves, so I walk up to the bulletproof plexiglass that the cashier is behind. I ask for snaps and ask the dude to cash my check after I sign the back of it. He slides my cash towards me underneath the glass, and I grabbed it. Just as I'm about to put money in the top pocket of my jean jacket, the tall dude behind me snatches my 700 effing dollars right out of my hand and dashes out of the door. The last thing I expect is for a joker to reach over me and rob me like that. That's what I get for being short. Out of pure instinct and rage, I whip around and charge after the dude out of the store and down the alley. As I'm chasing him at top speed, I grab to my switchblade out my pocket, under my jacket pocket, flick it open, and do my best to catch his behind. All I can think is, how dare you just snatch my ish? Not tonight, N-word. Not tonight. Ramsey watching at the top of the alley screaming after me, Jada, no. I'm out of my mind. And she can see that trying to stop me is a losing effort. The guy is tall as HE double hockey sticks with long legs. The farther ahead he gets, the madder I get. Clearly, I'm not going to catch him. So I stop and try to catch my breath as I walk back towards Ramsey. Once I reach her, she's pissed. She says, if you had caught him, what were you going to do? She asks. I was going to put this knife in his back and rip out that N-word spine. Yeah, right. He could have killed you. Something is really wrong with you, Ramsey says with a slightly relieved chuckle. We went back to the spot and got our peach snaps and went down to the harbor, hanging out and drinking until it got really late. The late spring night was so nice. It was evenings like this that made me fall in love with the East Coast warm nights forever. The pleasure of being outside and hanging on nights like this was something I wanted to hold on to as long as possible. We were having such a good time as usual. Whenever we were together, and I felt like whatever problems were in our way were nothing. Then, unbelievably, who do I see? Yep, homeboy who took my ish across the street. Same jeans, same shoes, same white t-shirt, just mobbing like ish ain't happened earlier, but he doesn't see me. In this moment, I have to make a choice. For several beats, I look at him, contemplating whether I should go confront this dude. What I realize is without that rush of adrenaline, I don't have the same courage I had in the alley. Note taken. I gotta stop being so damn impulsive. It's going to get me hurt. I tell myself, turn the other way and just leave it alone. I do just that and continue my laughs with Ramsey. Despite the earlier events, this night gave me a lasting memory of the carefreeness of my youth. In the midst of everything with the overt violence and undertow, there was beauty, love, and deep friendship amongst all these lessons. I was learning that the University of Bmore Streets advanced, and considering all the other choices and circumstances that lay ahead of me, this was a very good Friday night in a city where you had to be more careful. Because you were in Murderland now, not Maryland. Welcome. Okay. So then she has a quote that says, find your tribe, love them hard. It says, I'm so grateful for all the supportive, meaningful friendships I have had in my life with women and men alike. Being my mother's only child, I feel blessed to have found so many sisters and brothers in friendship who genuinely love me and look out for me. They have made sure I haven't had to walk through the dramas of life alone. These kinds of friendships are not always a given. Many times we can give more attention to the people who cause us drama than to those who want to assist in our peaceful well-being. Who are the people in your life that you consider friends? Write down their names and why you consider their friendship important and nourishing. Have you told them how special they are to you and how grateful you are to have them in your life? If not, take the time to do it right this second. All right. So that was chapter 5. All right. So now we are at a chapter called A Gate to Many Roads. I'm not going to read that right now. Let me go to the chapters. All right. So the next part is called Hollywood, which is part 2. So we're going to skip that one. We're going to go to Jada. How y'all think part 2 start off? How y'all think Hollywood chapter starts off? I'm not about to play with Jada Pinkett. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god. Ooh, child, let me pull it on the screen. Let me pull it on the screen. Hold on. All right, let me go to chapters. Let me go to part 2 Hollywood. Oh. Oh. Whew. Oh. Oh man. Oh man. Mm. Jada, Jada, Jada. What is going on? What is happening? Oh my god. Okay, okay. Okay. All right. So let me show y'all how part 2 Hollywood starts. Okay, so let me bring it on the screen. Let me bring it on the screen for y'all because baby, I'm not about to play. I'm not about to play with Jada today. Okay, I'll be giving you a lot of grace, Jada. I be windmilling for you, girl. I be I be windmilling for you, girl. Okay. Let me put it on the screen. Let me put it on the screen. All right, hold on. Let me put it on the screen. Girl, we just went through a whole chapter 5. Then you went from chapter 6. Now we back. Okay, hold on. Let me put it on the screen. All right. So right here, you see this says part 2 Hollywood. Okay. So then when we go over chapter 7, promise of a perfect world. Okay. It says, "What's up, Square?" Pac begins as always, and then bursts into that contagious giggle of his. The levity and big energy in his voice makes me smile. Boy, what do you want? I've just gotten home from rehearsal at the studio. I'm tired. Have Rottweilers to feed, and I'm not in the mood for his nonsense. As usual, though, Pac couldn't care less about whether I'm tired. He's on a mission. Look, there's this movie I want us to do together called Menace to Society. What? Am I dreaming? I thought back to a few years earlier when I'd arrived in LA in the early summer of 1990. All I wanted to do was win, win, win. And I believed if I played the game right, it would deliver me to life, the life of prosperity, peace, and happiness I had always wanted. That was the dream. Trying to make it as a queen pin hadn't offered me that dream. Though the game had taught me a strong hustle, a hustle I brought to LA. Okay. So that's how the Hollywood chapter start. Hold on. It's easier for me to read it here because, child. Okay. All right. She says, all I wanted to do was win, win, win. And I believed if I played the game right, it would deliver me the life of prosperity, peace, and happiness I had always wanted. That was the dream. Trying to make it as a queen pin hadn't offered me that dream, though the game had taught me a hustle I brought to LA. There's no such thing as overnight success. Everybody who grabs the spotlight probably looks like an overnight success because you ain't know them before they got on the scene. Behind each one of those stories is someone who is willing to suffer setbacks and put in the hard work, hoping for a little sprinkle of luck. The best talisman I had was my mother's belief in me. Without it, I don't think I would have been able to pursue an acting career and with such confidence. But just like everyone else, I had to deal with the classic Hollywood catch 22. If you don't have any recent or current credits, you're stuck trying to get credit, which you can't get if you don't have any credits. How to overcome that? Your training, talent, skills, and commitment to hard work are all valuable assets for sure. Connections, as everyone will tell you, can be helpful, but can't make you. A connection can't give you a career, but it can help open a door enough to get your foot in. And timing is crucial. There is there is one other asset that might seem to be a curse but can turn out to be the ace up your sleeves. For me, that was education from the University of the Bmore Streets. I had cultivated fearfulness and a no nonsense attitude. After all I had seen and been through, I knew any trials Hollywood had to offer would pale in comparison to the trials I had already withstood. However, it was sometimes a double edged sword because some would say that I could come off as abrasive, distant, and aloof. I didn't seem approachable, which until now had worked as a beautiful defense mechanism and kept me safe. But here in Hollywood, it seemed as if I had a chip on my shoulders. I wasn't aware of the edge because that's just how we roll back on the East Coast. I also got a lot of pushback for being rough around the edges. Whether it was my Baltimore accent or the fact that I wasn't your clean cut girl next door in my style. And oh, yeah, I was too hairy on the East. Hair was considered sexy. Hair, legs, arms, upper lip. Even bushy eyebrows were celebrated where I was from. I once had a very famous black actor tell me at a pool party when he saw me in shorts, Jada, promise me that you'll never shave your legs. I remember thinking, gladly. With all Hollywood nonsense and scrutiny that came my way, my edge helped me stay true to who I was and where I came from. And that so-called chip on my shoulder was my refusal to lose myself in a very white Hollywood standard of poise, dress, and attitude that was slowly but surely being pressed upon me. Black talent was in vogue, whereas blackness off screen was not. Often I heard questions: what are you mixed with? Excuse me? Is your mother white? No, she happens to be full blooded West Indian, I would answer proudly. Oh, that's it. The Indian in you. This casting director was trying to imply that to the looks as I did, I couldn't be of full African American heritage, and he assumed that the Indian in my mother's heritage meant Native American. It got to the point where I saw such comments as ignorant and ridiculous, but I could not believe how frequently I heard them. What got me was the constant look of disbelief whenever I replied that both my parents were simply black. Ringing in my ears all the time were my Aunt Karen's words about never speaking on the mixed blood anywhere in my bloodline. She'd emphasize that people will always try to use that to influence in your background as an excuse for why you had any appealing quality at all. Even if the one relative from another race was 3 generations ago, they'll never want to give your blackness credit, Jada. Don't let them do that. Whenever the questions arose at the time, I was knocking on doors, hoping that they would open for me. I thought of Aunt Karen. Once I began to enter these audition rooms, I would come across a lot of fake wolves posing as producers, casting directors, and such. The Hollywood flex was amusing, but there would be quite a few times when I let jokers know I ain't the one. Compared to the real wolves of B-more, these show business jokers were more like puppies. Sometimes I got nervous because I always wanted to do well, but this wasn't life or death for me like it was for some. I knew all too well what life and death looked like. I could keep everything in perspective and just ride. The hustle became fun and exciting. My real edge, I knew it was all a game. Los Angeles itself can be deceiving to the uninitiated. The palm trees, the balmy weather, and the slower daily tempo can trick you into thinking you are on holiday every day. But I learned quick that these LA streets were nothing to play with. I was still an avid skater, so it worked out well that both the first place I lived in was Culver City, and my next address on Comey Avenue off the corner of La Cienega and Venice gave me close proximity to the world on wheels, the skating ring I hit every chance I got. Other than that, LA was like a foreign country to me. What confused me the most were the colors and repping neighborhoods thing. I didn't understand what all of that had to do with making money. The gangs didn't own the property they were dying and repping for. On the East Coast, street cliques hooked up to make money. A clique might rep an area of the city based on money made, not based on gang color. Clearly, I was out of my league, so I kept my nose clean of all of that. But LA Trouble had a way of finding me anyway at home. You knew when you were in a neighborhood you should not be in. LA was different. You could be in a neighborhood that looked like a working class area with nice lawns and palm trees, and the next thing you know, you get got. In other words, robbed and carjacked. One night, driving home from World on Wheels with one of my homegirls, a packed little hoopty pulls up beside us. I see some dudes up against the window looking as if they created a new version of pop locking, ready to battle some East Coast b-boys. I start laughing and tell my girlfriend, look, they pop locking. My girlfriend looks up and her mood turns. Oh, ish, she yells. They throwing signs. They about to jack us. We gotta go. I stepped on the gas of my Civic CRX so fast and hard. We sped down Venice all the way into Culver City until I made sure we lost them. That would not be my last run-in with LA's unpredictable nature. For all the differences in Los Angeles and Baltimore, I found my people. We love to frequent places like M&M Soul Food or Silver Spoon that couldn't be beat for Sunday's breakfast. Then we prowled through the Slauson Swap Meet, which became my go-to where I could shop for everything, even the new woofers and stereo systems for my car. I love going to Lamert Park to join protests or to enjoy the outside markets. Not far from there were the aisles of Eso Wan Books, an iconic Black-owned bookstore that featured Black authors who focused on subject matters of interest to people of color. I found books there would never find that you would never find in the chain bookstores. Not too far from my house on Comey Avenue, over by Rodeo, on that side, as opposed to Rodeo in Beverly Hills, I was out and about when the acquittal in the Rodney King trial was announced. I'll never forget how Black people poured into the streets, rioting and looting. The community was furious, fed up, tired of a system constantly reiterating that a Black man beaten senseless by cops had no recourse. Under the law, we were tired of a system claiming that the Black community was not worthy of justice and fair treatment. The Rodney King beating represented injustices that felt in every hood across America. Whether you were from South, the East, the North, or the West, whether you were Colors or Tims, we all felt the pain and humiliation of entrenched dynamics protecting those who had no regard for Black life. My girlfriend Keisha was visiting me from Baltimore that day, and we took our frustration to the street. Within the chaos of the riots was a unified voice. F this, you will hear us today. Youth plus anger plus passion plus frustration can rightfully equal impetuous acts. In expressions of anger, frustration, and the need to be heard, many got caught up in the tide that would render unintended consequences as we grabbed stuff out of local stores. At that point in my life, I definitely believed justice meant an eye for an eye. Maturity would teach me that's not always the case. That night of looting and burning down businesses destroyed resources we needed in our community, and we felt that. We knew what that would happen to we knew that what happened to one of us happened to all of us. The saving grace was that in the midst of this chaos, there was a lot of love to be found in many of our homes, churches, and community centers as reminders of our worth. In the end, the tragedy was that not much had changed to address the pain of that moment or to prevent the moment from happening again. All right, so I think right there, we've been on for 2 hours. I think I'm gonna stop right there. Um, I'm going to skim through and find like the next big juicy part, and then we'll go from there. This next part right now, she talk about she seeing Nia Long, Elise Neal, Holly Berry, Regina King, Tamala Jones, Tashina Arnold, Melinda Williams, Monica Calhoun, Nicole Ari Parker, Leela Rashawn, Queen Latifah, and so many more on the audition circuit. So she talked about seeing these people on the audition circuit. We'll talk about that probably tomorrow, when Holly became the first and yet only Black woman to win a Best Actress Oscar for Monsters Ball. She generously acknowledged many of us that the support and belief we have for one another. I felt that her acknowledgement was beautiful homage to the era. We all had our own superpowers, yet we had healthy competition. We knew that. Okay, so we'll read through that tomorrow. For my first 3 months in LA, I juggled 3 jobs. My main gig, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we'll go through more of this tomorrow. I'm going to get a few hours of sleep, and we'll be back at this tomorrow. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Thank y'all for donating. Let me see, because I think some cash apps came through while I was reading. So let me go to my cash app and read off the cash apps, and then we'll go from there. So I got a cash app from Bank Varo. It says um for Nick at Night Wine and the Black Book Club reading. From I think Irish Tyndale. Okay, Tammy. Okay, wait, I think I read those. Okay. All right. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all for listening, and we'll get more into the book tomorrow. And let me know how y'all feel about this book reading. We'll do it in segments because child, it's a lot to comb through. But I wanted to give you guys a first look at the book as soon as I was able to get my hands on it and bring it to you guys since this was such a hot topic. I'll see you guys in the morning. And what do you guys think about Tupac's chapters? Because she started chapter 7. One page was about Tupac, and then she didn't even segue off of Tupac. It just was a random throw Pac in the beginning. And then it just went into other stuff. Like, that was kind of odd, but we selling books here, okay? We selling books here, okay? Somebody said next time I need to be on time because I ain't reading that ish on my own. Child, catch the replay. Catch the replay, okay? Somebody said it's lackluster. Man, long live Pac. She disrespected him. I hope he hunts her at night. Yikes. Child. Kathy says she loved a book reading. Thank you, Kathy. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we gonna talk. We gonna talk tomorrow. But let me get a few hours of sleep. And we'll talk tomorrow.